Hello, everybody. It's Walter, your favorite historian, educator, professor, social studies extraordinaire, and blue collar scholar. Today's date is September 25th, 2025. This video is entitled Revolutionary War Era State Constitutions. After the Declaration of Independence, all of the original 13 states had to proceed to adopt their very first constitutions as states of a new American Union. No longer were they colonies, but instead sovereign individual states, okay? And with that in mind, each of the original 13 states had to design a fundamental law for their respective state that would reflect the values of those jurisdictions. Now, this is an era in which you, of course, have competing views on government. You have, obviously, individuals who favor a Republican form of government in the states and those who favor pure democracy, okay, blended with the aspects of Republican government in the states. This conflict manifested itself with the formation of two distinct factions: conservative Whigs, who wanted to concentrate power in the hands of the elite, and radical Whigs, who wanted pure democracy, allowing for a system where virtually all men, at least, could participate in the political life of the state. All right. Now, it's an interesting thing that the conservative Whigs, who represented the vast majority of our founding fathers and others who are lesser known, they wanted the power typically to be concentrated in the hands of the elite, okay, the more wealthy, aristocratic individuals in society, those who had property, okay, both real and personal property, okay. In their mindsets, those who had property were those who had the most to lose, the biggest stake in society, and therefore they were the best ones to govern. Thus, they are the ones who should not only vote, but also hold office. These were the most virtuous citizens, okay? They absolutely despised the even thought of the uneducated masses of common laborers and farmers and butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers being able to vote and hold office. After all, these people were not virtuous, and while they may be intentionally well-meaning, they were not of a proper stature to govern in society. Okay, that was best designed for the elite. And so you get this obvious conflict, and it manifests itself in the creation of these 13 new state constitutions between 1776 and the year 1780. So in all of the 13 states, you see commonalities in these constitutions. But just like the state constitutions of today, they are all very different. And they have laws and provisions which reflect the particular needs of those states. Depending on which faction won, okay, the radical Whigs or the conservative Whigs, depended on the state. If I didn't get into enough detail about the radical Whigs, this faction wanted broad democracy. They virtually wanted no limitations on voting or holding office, okay? Any man, any color, didn't make a difference, should be able to vote and hold office. This is what distinguished them from the conservative Whigs. Now, with these state constitutions, the vast majority of the original 13 states did not adopt broad democracy in these constitutions. Almost all of them imposed property ownership requirements in order to be able to hold office, okay, to be governor, to be a member of the state senate, to be a member of the state House of Delegates, or whatever they refer to their lower house. Okay, almost all of the states adopted some sort of property ownership requirements. Several, though not all of them, adopted similar net worth requirements to even vote. Virtually all of the states prohibited women from voting. If I'm not mistaken, New Jersey had a unique provision where they allowed women of property to cast ballots, but that was repealed on or about the year 1810. In the early American states, not all of the states had color bars to voting. Several states, including my own Maryland, allowed African American men to vote as long as they met the property requirements. I taught this matter to my class, my U.S. History 1 class, and we examined the intricate details of Maryland's first constitution, which was adopted in 1776. For example, the governor was chosen by a joint ballot of both houses of the General Assembly. So the governor is coming from the General Assembly. All right, he's not being elected by the voters. The state Senate is being chosen by electors, okay, sort of like an electoral college that we use to pick the president. And the House of Delegates is chosen by the voters, okay, voters who have a certain freehold of land, certain amount of property in Maryland. Okay, so the House of Delegates is the only body that's directly chosen by the voters. Okay, as I said, the governor is chosen by the General Assembly, and the Senate is chosen by electors. All right, for the record, in Maryland, the people would not choose the governor until 1837. All right, and even then, the whole state didn't pick the governor. What you got was rotating gubernatorial districts like the Western Shore, Central Maryland, and the Eastern Shore. And based on whatever district was in play for a gubernatorial election cycle, the people in that district would choose the governor. So this was not abolished until our 1864 Constitution. So it would not be until the year 1868 that the people of Maryland as a whole would choose the governor. All right, that's just one example. All right, in early Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, the more liberal states, you could say, they abolished all property requirements to vote in their first constitutions. So virtually all white males could cast ballots. I'm not sure if they had color bars in those states, but almost certainly all white males could vote. Massachusetts' original constitution, adopted in 1780, for the record, theirs was the last of the original state constitutions to be adopted among the original 13 states, but it was the longest lasting. It's still in effect today, of course, with amendment. John Adams imposed fairly limited property ownership requirements to be governor, to be a member of the state legislature. Judges were, of course, appointed for life. And you also had to have a small net worth value in real and personal property to be able to vote in Massachusetts under its original constitution. I think you had to be worth at least 60 pounds, okay? So, you know, this of course, South Carolina as well, you had to have a plantation and likely human property to substantiate and further, you're trying to use the best word for it, affirm your wealth, okay? So real property and personal property here. All of these state constitutions are reflective of the day of that conflict between democracy and keeping power in the hands of the elite. So let's face it, the vast majority of the new state constitutions kept power in the hands of the elite. And one of the most notable ways of doing that was to have the governor chosen by the legislature. All right. So that being said, among other things, it would take some time for the process of reform to come with these constitutions. Almost all of them have been replaced, obviously, because those are original constitutions written more than 250 years ago. Maryland itself has had 4, 1776, 1851, 1864, and now 1867. So through time and evolution, all of the state constitutions have been updated to reflect the popular norms, cultures, and values of the state today. All right, and they have come a long way, but the whole purpose of this video was just to impart upon you the knowledge of how undemocratic and very restrictive the power was in the original 13 state constitutions, concentrating most authority in the hands of the elite to the vast disadvantage of most of the state's population, including women, African Americans, and Native Americans. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Leave them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to engage you in peaceful, civil discussion. Take care of yourself, stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you at the next video. Professor Shelton, the Blue Collar Scholar, out.